Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Now we are going to start another topic, minerals. What will be the learning objectives for the minerals? Learning objectives are that at the end of the lecture, we should know, or students should know, or students should be able to students should be able to memorize or to recall the following. Number one, the classification of the minerals in the body. What is the classification of the mineral? And then the detail of principal elements. What are the principal elements? Detail of the trace elements. What are the trace elements? And we should know the metabolism of minerals. And we should know the hemostasis of each and clinical conditions associated with their excess and deficiency. Hemostasis, that at a certain level which is suitable for the body, and its excess, what will cause the excess and what will cause the deficiency. Certainly these are diseases which are caused by the excess and deficiency of these minerals. Then the dietary sources. What are the diets? Which are the diets from which these minerals can be obtained? What is the normal blood level of these minerals? Now what is the daily requirement? RDA, recommended daily allowance. Then functions of the each mineral. Now first, what are the minerals? As we know that our body is formed of the organic elements, but there are certain inorganic elements which are very important for the functioning of the body tissues. Some vital functions are dependent on these inorganic elements. Although these inorganic elements or minerals constitute only a very small proportion of the body weight, but we can say बेकाम थे कहतर बेकीम थे बेहतर, वो ये मिकदार थोड़ी होती है, बात इसकी अहमियत बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. Minerals, inorganic materials in the body. There are about 29 important different inorganic elements which are required for the growth and maintenance of our body health. 29th important inorganic elements or the mineral which are essential for the maintenance of the human body health or the vital functions of performed our body. These inorganic elements are very much important in the some vital functions of the human body. Although there is a wide variations in the body of their contents, body contents. Some minerals or the some inorganic elements are just near about the 2% of the total body weight. As the calcium, you know, our skeleton is based on the calcium and our body is based on our skeleton. So it is near about 2% of the total body weight, which is calcium. But some inorganic elements or minerals are very low concentration. For example, cobalt, but it's also very important. We will see that's part of the vitamin B12, and due to the deficiency of cobalt, there could be pernicious anemia. Maximum, it means that by a question that the highest concentration mineral in the body is the calcium, which is about the 2% of the body weight, and the lowest concentration, it is the cobalt, which is about the 0.00004%. Then what are the general function? Inshallah, we will study the functions of each mineral separately. But there are some general function, just for overview. There are some structure function as calcium, magnesium, phosphate. These form the structure of the body. And you know that some minerals or inorganic materials is very important for the membrane functions of the body. Sodium, potassium. The very good example, you know that the RBCs in the body, these are biconcave shape. And this biconcave shape, that they can easily pass through the small capillaries. And this biconcave shape of the RBCs is maintained by these sodium and potassium pump. As you know, the sodium outside the cell, extracellular sodium is high than the intracellular, and the potassium is extracellular low and this intracellular high. Now, this is the function of these sodium potassium pumps. Sodium potassium ATPase, it will act that it will expel the sodium from the cell, from the cell, and it is to be said that where the sodium will go, the water will follow. When the sodium will go out of the cell, the water will also go out of the cell. So in this way, the biconcave shape of the RBCs is being maintained. For example, these pumps are not working. Sodium potassium membrane function is not there. What will happen? That these RBCs will retain water in them and they will swell up. Their biconcave shape will gone, and the swell up RBCs can't move into the small capillaries, and they can be captured by the phagocytosis, and there will be the lysis of the RBCs, and in this way there will be hemolytic anemia. This is one example how important these minerals are. Then their function as the prosthetic groups in certain enzymes. Now, what is the prosthetic group? You know, the enzymes are basically proteins, and these protein part of the enzyme, as you know, the enzyme, it is basically it enhances the catalytic activities of a substance that increase in the rate of chemical reaction. These enzymes are for the increase in the rate of the chemical reaction, but these function of these enzymes are dependent on these cofactors or the prosthetic group. You can call it the cofactors. These are the non-protein part of the group of the enzyme. These are combined with the enzyme. These non-protein enzymes are protein, and these cofactor or the prosthetic groups are non-protein part. But the function of this enzyme is dependent on the presence of this non-protein part or the prosthetic group. And we will see that in the enzyme cobalt, copper, iron, molybdenum, selenium, zinc, these are the integral part of some enzyme which we will study later. And without the presence of these inorganic material cobalt, copper, iron, molybdenum, selenium, zinc. These enzymes are unable to work. And then there are some regulatory role of these organic materials and minerals in the hormones action. For example, the calcium. Calcium, as you know, it is for the calcification of the bone. It also decreases the neuromuscularity, irritability, and potassium needed for the proper fluid balance, nerve transmission, and muscle contraction. And you know the calcium is very important for the healthy bones and teeth, helps muscle relax and contract, and important in the nerve functions, blood clotting, blood, the regulation of the immune system are also for the regulate. It's also necessary for the good immune system of the body, which is nowadays is very important. But there are some minerals known to be essential, but their function is still unknown. These are silicon, vanadium, nickel, tin. Then have effects in the body, but essentially is not established fluoride lithium. Some minerals are present in the body. They must have effects, but it is not just established. And these are the fluoride and lithium. Then many minerals are present in the foods. Accidentally we can have these minerals, but these known to be toxic in excess. For example, the aluminium, arsenic, antimony, boron, bromine, cadmium, cesium, germanium, lead, mercury, silver, strontium. These may occur in the foods, but known to be toxic in excess. At the certain level, up to the certain level, these are acceptable, but very toxic when it exceeds this level. Then some other general functions: calcification of the bones, as we have said, the calcium and potassium, and the blood coagulation, as in the calcium is also for the blood coagulation. Neuromuscular irritability, calcium decreases the neuromuscular irritability. Then acid-base regulation. Some minerals, just like zinc, calcium, and magnesium, they're taking part in the acid-base regulation. For example, how they are taking part? Zinc is a cofactor of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. It is a cofactor or prosthetic group of enzyme carbonic anhydrase, and without the presence of zinc, the carbonic anhydrase will not work, can't work. And carbonic anhydrase, it is partially responsible for the formation of bicarbonate ions, so important in regulating acid-base balance. It is partially responsible for the formation of bicarbonate ions. Then there are certain minerals which are involved in the fluid balance: sodium, chloride, potassium. As you know, there are. Then there are certain minerals these which are important for the osmotic regulation of the body. Then certain minerals or the inorganic particles are integral component of the biological important compounds, these are compounds which are very important for us. For example, hemoglobin. As you know, it's very important, hemoglobin, because RBCs carry hemoglobin, and when they are going for the exchange of the gases, they are carrying oxygen, and its iron is its integral part. So the deficiency of iron will be lead to the deficiency of hemoglobin and the anemia. So it's very important. Hemoglobin, iron is part of hemoglobin. Then the next important is thyroxine, iodine. As you know, there are certain diseases we will study inshallah, which are due to the deficiency of the iodine, thyroxine dependent upon the iodine, mineral iodine. Then zinc, it's important part of the insulin. As you know, insulin, it's a very important hormone for the hyperglycemia. When the glucose levels go up, the insulin will also released, and this insulin will be used to decrease the hyperglycemia up to the normal level. It will shift the extracellular glucose to the intracellular. Then the vitamin B12, cobalt. Vitamin B12 is very much important for us, and cobalt is the integral part of the vitamin B12. Then sulfur. There are certain organosulfur compounds, and sulfur, as we know, this is the mineral, inorganic element. It is present in the thiamine. Thiamine, as you know, it's the vitamin B1. Biotin, it's also a water-soluble vitamin. Then lipoic acid and coenzyme A. Lipoic acid, organosulfur compound. These are all very much important for the metabolism of carbohydrates. As we know that glucose is the ultimate source of energy for us, for our body, especially for the neurons, our brain. And when the glycolysis, there are two types of glycolysis, anaerobic and aerobic. Anaerobic without the involvement of oxygen, and there is very small amount of ATP is formed in the anaerobic glycolysis. We have to invest 2 ATP molecule, and there will be the we can have the 4 ATP molecule. It means that net there will be only 2 ATP molecule in the anaerobic. But when it enters, oxygen is present, mitochondria is present, it enters the TCA cycle. Here there is a big amount of energy, and the electron transport chain we will inshallah study in the second year. A big amount of ATP will be produced, and these are basically very important in this glycolysis. Coenzyme, as we know that our daily diet is composed of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and the all will be converted to the carbohydrate will convert to the monosaccharide monomers, which can be easily digested, absorbed by the body. And monosaccharide, especially glucose, there are 3 monosaccharides which can be absorbed from the body. These are glucose, galactose, and fructose. Then the protein. The monomers of protein is the amino acid, and then this lipid, acetyl fatty acid, triacylglycerol. These all will convert into the acetyl-CoA, acetyl-coenzyme A, and from acetyl-coenzyme A, that will enter into TCA cycle, and there will be a big amount of ATP will be formed, and then in the TCA cycle, one of the intermediate is the succinyl-CoA, It means that coenzyme A is very much important for as well as in the glycolysis and then as well as in the TCA cycle for the formation of ATP, for the formation of energy, and our life is depend on the energy, this energy ATP. It means that coenzyme A, it is part of the acetyl CoA, and then it is the succinyl CoA, part of the succinyl CoA, which is the present in the intermediate of the TCA cycle, Krebs cycle, tricarboxylic acid cycle. Then there are many minerals like magnesium, manganese, copper, zinc, and potassium. They also participate as a cofactor of enzymes in metabolism. We will see, inshallah, we will study the individual and we will see that which are the enzymes which dependent on these minerals: magnesium, manganese, copper, zinc, and potassium. For example, molybdenum. It's a part of the xanthine oxidase. Xanthine oxidase. Basically, xanthine oxidase is an enzyme which is used for the it catalyzes the reaction of the conversion of hypoxanthine to xanthine and xanthine to uric acid. You know, uric acid, when accumulated in some parts of the body, it causes pain, and allopurinol, it's a university question, allopurinol, it inhibits this enzyme. And this enzyme is dependent on the, and during this demand, the ROS, this enzyme generates the reactive oxygen species, ROS. This enzyme generates the ROS. Basically, ROS play a role in the, as a messenger in the normal cell transmission. But despite of their beneficial activities, ROS or the reactive oxygen species. Reactive oxygen species, these are basically the way oxygen is very important for our daily life. But half of molecule is used and the half with the oxygen with unpaired electron. It's very reactive and very dangerous. It can be formed unwanted. It can cause the unwanted reactions in the lipids, in the proteins, in the carbohydrates, and can damage the cell. Particularly in the cell wall, it causes the lipid peroxidation. So these ROS which are produced is very important superoxide. This can be immediately converted to the hydrogen peroxide H2O2 by the action of the superoxide dismutase. Now, hydrogen peroxide is also very much dangerous for body. So there is an enzyme glutathione peroxidase which is also dependent on the inorganic mineral element selenium. It is a cytosolic enzyme and catalyzes the reduction of hydrogen peroxide to water and oxygen. In this way, the ROS reactive oxygen species tissues can be prevented from the reactive oxygen species and then by the hydrogen peroxide. So it's a university question that how selenium acts as an antioxidant. So this is the way that it is a part of the glutathione peroxidase, and glutathione peroxidase, it catalyzes the reduction of the hydrogen peroxide which is produced by the reaction of ROS reactive oxygen species so into normal water and normal oxygen. Thank you very much. Next, inshallah ta'ala, we will study the classification of minerals. Thank you very much.